lately I've been seeing these tier lists kind of starting to get a little bit trendy and on Twitter. I know there was some stuff recently where who was it? iDubbbz did one with fast food or fast food restaurants, and it started to kind of pick up lately, at least from what I've seen in the timeline of my Twitter. And I figured I would do one that'd be pretty fun, pretty quick to the point. And we're gonna be doing that here, as in the official, unofficial waifus of Black Clover tier list. I think Black Clover is a good place to start because there's not a lot of girls, but following that, let's just get one thing straight out in the open. There are no bad girls in Black Clover. And by that, I don't mean villains. I mean, there are no female characters that I would put in a category of just being like trash. I don't think there's a single girl in Black Clover that doesn't fall into that. Even the ones that are very trashy in personality, they've got some nice features to them, for the eyes, and maybe more if you catch my drift. But the only thing I really didn't really take into this list are kind of like Mary, just the children in general. We got Ecklet as well, the younger sister of what was his name, Droit, the elf that took over Gosh's body, or Drowa, sorry. I was thinking of the demon from Fairy Tail, but I also didn't include Sylph because, again, obvious reasons. I'm not including any pretty much tiny, insignificant. I don't want to say insignificant, minuscule rather, non-human characters like that. We're gonna go more realistic in that site. So just putting those two things out there. There are no bad girl characters in Black Clover. They're all good, at least to some degree. And legitimately, I think doing the lowest rank was the hardest, just because of the fact that, again, the girls in Black Clover are super solid. You don't have any that are just kind of have some stupid power and they're in the background and you don't even care about them. And there's been some characters that there was one I remember specifically that was in in the Royal Knights exam. What was her name? Waisley or some shit, some weird ass name like that. Let's look on the side real quick so I see it. Yeah, Wainsley. It doesn't really matter, but even if you wanted to counter in this, she still got some pretty good looks. But again, irrelevant in this. We don't know anything about her, and we'll probably never will. So I didn't really feel like going into that. But obviously, the first one we're going to go off is the lowest one, the Seer tier list, in which some of them were a little bit difficult to be placed in C in the lowest rank out of these, but they are as follows. Soul is really obvious. I think she's extremely annoying. I mean, she's still got that nice tanned skin, but I don't think there's been a single moment in the manga where I haven't just wanted her to be off screen. I don't hate her character. I don't want her to die, but I just don't want her around until she starts to develop into a more bearable character. After that, we have Reeve, the elf that took over Dorothy. I just felt like there wasn't really anything to really go off of Reeve at all. There's a very boring personality. It wasn't like Dorothy, where when we finally saw Dorothy, she was just a big bundle of interest and high spirits that we had. After that is Nebra Silva. She's definitely probably one of the least liked characters in Black Clover because of the way that her and Solid treated Noelle when they're little. Because a lot of it, Nozzle, or Nozel if you want to call him that. I'm going with Nozzle until I see any canon pronunciation or weird symbols over the O. But he was just kind of a dick, whereas from what we saw, the ones that were actually bullying her were, physically bullying her, as well as emotionally and mentally bullying her, were Nebra and Solid. And Nebra, again, she's probably one of the least liked characters of Black Clover. There's probably only a couple people that would rank below her in terms of relevant characters in a popularity list. But she still has some nice parts to her. I mean, she's still got them nice thighs. And overall, she's pretty nice to look at. Following her, we have the elf that took over Fragile. I mean, Fragile, I don't know how her name is properly pronounced. I just went with her from that because we didn't really have a good one of a Fragile herself. And we didn't really we don't really know much about either character, so it was just kind of like gave them like a joint spot. The only thing we really got from her is that she wears like a really cute hat, I guess. Nothing really much to go by there. So she's one of the reasons that the fall in the bottom one. I mean, C is really just like characters in general who are probably very disliked or maybe not that interesting as they are right now. Right after her, we have what exactly was her name? It was what P something Polly or something Polly. She's a she's a interesting character. She's not much to look at, but she's entertaining. She's got a really cool magic, and I feel like at least she probably would she'd be a spectacle to be around. Not much for waifu list. The Witch Queen being the last one on there, and the Witch Queen, she's probably looks nice if she took that like big ass dress off. I mean, she looks elegant in it, but we don't have. There's nothing really to go off if you want to count on just like the smooth looks category. But definitely in terms of she's got cool magic, but in terms of personality, like years of pretty much having this like horrible confinement of Vanessa just makes her a very dislikable character as she is now. She was a cool antagonist for the arc, and the fact that she came up as the villain after so many like quick like, oh, this is the real villain. Like you had Fauna Elf, then you had Landros, and then you had the Witch Queen just pop up and be the villain. It was even more surprising that Asta wasn't even the one to beat her. It was actually Vanessa. So I figured she'd at least be last to mention on this because she has probably the most to talk about of why she's on the lowest list of just not only was she horrible, but she had her degrees of like of being horrible were extremely inhumane to like where Nebra was a bully to Noelle. What the Witch Queen did to Vanessa was not only like putrid, but that's also like her daughter, at least from what she said. So it was an extra layer of like messed up. Because at least with Nebra, a lot of like the stuff that she did, like growing up, you can see like, you know, children are cruel, but like it's different when you're an ancient witch chick and you're treating your daughter like pretty much like a slave. Rolling to the B category, we have first off we have normal Fauna, and I don't really, there was nothing really to go off on normal Fauna. We didn't really see much of her. I mean, I could really only find like one good picture of her, and it was from the anime, and it was when she was like pretty young. I mean, there's nothing really to look at her and get anything out of her character yet. I mean, there's definitely potential there, and her dynamic with Mars is pretty interesting. After that, we have Carla. Not much really to say about Carla. I mean, she was really just like boosted Charlotte, but without any of Charlotte's fun, kind of like embarrassing quirks that we like about her. I mean, she had that enhanced magic made her look really beautiful, but really there's nothing that we could kind of staple on there besides just being like an elf version of Charlotte. I mean, and she had some cool magic as well too. One that I didn't think would be as easy to do is I don't know how to pronounce her name. Aesir, you know, the mother of Noelle, Nozzle, Solid, and Nebra. You know, one of the strongest wizards that we know about, or mages, whichever you want to go by. We'll just go by wizards. And just because, like, we only see a little bit of her, and most of what we've seen of her, like, the most amount that we've seen was from Nozzle's flashback. I didn't want to use a pregnant version of her to put in this. Probably a little awkward to talk about, since one of the reasons, like, you can kind of count a lot of chicks on, like, waifu, you know, because whenever you look at something like this, whether you're looking at waifus or husbandos as the, you know, the female switchover equivalent, I guess it'd be more for like ranking dudes rather than females, but whatever. Looks is always going to be part of it. Obviously, personality is part of it, and like displays are going to be part of it. I mean, we haven't seen anything really of her, but you know, she's a hype train. Maybe we'll see something eventually. Next, we have Sister Lily. Sister Lily, she's nice to look at. She's pleasant. I would probably rank her higher if it wasn't for the both comedic yet torturous thing with Asta think he's ever going to get with her. It's never going to happen. She's a nun. And just like that perpetual reason why Asta isn't paying attention to any of the other girls around him, especially like Mimosa and Noelle. And the root cause is like he really wants to get with Sister Lily. That's never going to happen. And so not only is it kind of like, she's not really stringing Asta along because she's not trying to portray it as like maybe one day Asta. But the fact that her presence is also detrimental to the nice girls that want Asta, but he's not paying attention because he's got eyes set on her. Um, One that I was not too sure where entirely to put her is Katherine, one of the people that initially invaded the Clover Kingdom capital. She was with Radis, and she was the one that fought and had a quick confrontation with and Charmy, where she was using her magic, draining it from others as well to keep herself looking young. Obviously, that's not what she really looks like. The one that what she really looks like is like the old, kind of like haggard witch, and didn't know why I would want to put her on the list as that much. But obviously, we knew most of her as this younger, pristine, like very classical witch style to her, which I really liked. And I figured since like she can make herself young like that at any time, as long as she's able to, use some mana for it, then she would be on this list because she's definitely a nice character to look at, and she had like a venomous but interesting personality. And another one that it was just like a complete mystery of where to put her on there, and I don't really have much to talk about her, is Kivin or Kivun, however you pronounce her name, the elf that the Silva family was dealing with when right before Noelle unlocked her her sick Valkyrie dress. And the thing about her that, again, there's not much to discuss about some of these characters, so you can kind of like look at it as well as just kind of like what they displayed, what their design is like. And design wise, she's really good looking. She's got that very kind of like slick, like shiny hair. She's got that nice kind of glasses, but with the very kind of like cool tone to her. And her magic in general was just really cool. Like compass magic, being able to redirect, mess with people's abilities and their focus on men as well. The redirection of her compass. And that's like those cool compass needles that she could like spawn around her and shoot out like javelins, which was super sick. I mean, we'll only really ever see anything further of her as if they end up getting like fake bodies for the elves to go in. We don't know. And then last for this tier level is actually one that I wasn't sure if I was going to put on here at all, just because the fact that she's, an old lady, and we really only saw her in that one arc, in that cave arc. And that being the nice old nun, Theresa, or Teresa, I don't know how that's pronounced. I think the H is silent, probably a reference to Mother Teresa. But she was good looking. First of all, we'll go for it, obviously. She was good looking when she was young, but when it comes to like presence in the series, personality, she had a really good display in her first arc, defending and helping, giving magic to Gosh so he could go back and have a pretty good like turnaround point for his character. She obviously helps the kids as well. She's a nun, she's just helping the youngins stay safe and stay well educated and fed and cared for. But also the thing that I think definitely gives her some style points is she's the one that taught and trained Fuego Leon, which just adds an extra layer of, pristineness to her existence, even though it's probably not going to amount to much after the small amounts that we've saw for her. And then starting to roll into some of probably the thickest area, the middle area is definitely the thickest, because like you can definitely tell like unpopular characters from, again, Nebra and Solid, and you're not really gonna think about like characters who are little who's, like some of the female elves that don't have any like big roles in the story. But definitely in that nice A category, we have some good nice shout out characters. First off, hard to pronounce two of the names on here, but we have two characters. First one being again, how do you pronounce her name? Mariela. She's actually originally from the novel that was canon that we didn't get for the manga, unfortunately. But they covered like 2 or 3 episodes of the anime with a very unfortunate levels of animation quality. But she as a character is nice in general. She has a very kind of like very pompous look to her, but she overall is a pretty nice. There's not much to go off her, but she's a pretty cool character from what we've seen. I'm hoping we get more of her once we eventually, hopefully, do a Diamond Kingdom arc. One character, again, nice to see, like in the mid area, is Kahono. Kahono has she's got a really nice kind of relationship with Noelle. That she was a very good friend to her without having to be directly in the Black Bull squad, which was nice. It's probably cool to see, in her perspective, to make a friend that wasn't also like a straight comrade in our team. Because there's a level of automatic kind of like, I'll talk to you and get to know you when you're on the same team and you're in the same squad. But like you get this person who's not only not in her squad, but is far off, like pretty much somebody that she wouldn't have interacted with if it wasn't for her job in general, but not directly kind of like in relationship, like I said, as a comrade. It is probably cool for her, especially somebody that probably didn't take into account like her whole like inability to control her magic while being a noble. She kind of helped her with that too, helped Noelle, and that was good. Especially I like her magic. I like her cool music and song magic. Elf Fauna, again, it's slightly confusing because we have an elf and human version of them, both named Fauna, two separate characters, but conveniently they're both named Fauna. She had a lot more interesting of a character. I like her kind of like crazy hatred style that we saw early on, and she had a really cool magic. She was one of the probably the most OP characters because not only did she have high levels of attack from Salamander, she had healing from her own original fire magic. Well, sort of hers, but also human Fauna's. But also, she had diamond magic from the half of her book that was Mars's. So she also had high levels of durability and defense with, just diamond magic in general. And it was good they took Salamander away from her, because I think legitimately she would have been too broken for a character not being of the stature that she had capable of with her. Like I said, now she's way more into like absurd levels of like Phoenix style regeneration, where the upper body gone, she'll just regenerate. We're probably going to see a lot more fun stuff with her. Like her and Vito, I think, are around this stage now. They got 2 new bodies. And the other character I was talking about, you had Mariela, and this is the other one that, was from a novel that made it into canon, obviously, fully when the arc rolled around in the anime, is Dominante. I believe I don't think her and Fonzel are married. I believe that she is his fiance, and they're going to get married eventually. She has this kind of like halfway like love, yet other half like want to like beat up on Fonzel all the time, which is like a fun character aspect for entertainment, but at the same time you're probably like, man, it must suck to be him. He's living with Mariela, who is like an ex-assassin for the Diamond Kingdom, and Dominante, who's like this abusive girlfriend. But moving on, one character, again, I keep starting by saying one character. This is the character, though, that I put in a high rank for a specific reason. And this is for, I don't know how to pronounce her name, again, hard to pronounce. I don't know if it's Finesse or Fenice, but Fenice Kalmreich. And she was the girl, I believe she was supposed to get married to Langris. She was pretty much, an arranged marriage to unite the two houses. And I believe she's a direct cousin of Augustus Kira Clover. Was he the 13th of the Clover Kingdom? So she's like a lot closer to the royal blood than even like House Vermilion or House Silva is. And the reason I put her high is not only is she, she's very pretty, but she gives mad respect, good treating to Finral, one of the best people in Black Clover. Probably the least, the guy who gets the least respect for being such a good character and being such a good guy. Good dude all around, and I appreciate her for recognizing that in him. Rebecca, though, Rebecca has a lot of... You can pretty much summarize Rebecca really quickly. Not only is she very pretty, but she has very, very good, like, skills that you'd want as a wife, because she seems pretty smart. She definitely can multitask. She's clearly good at cooking and taking care of like kids, but at the same time she's very hardworking and competent, and I like that aspect to her. She does a lot of like pretty basic, like back in like medieval and like fantasy style things you'd expect, like you expect women to do. It's like, you take something like Game of Thrones. There are a couple exceptions, but like a lot of the characters kind of like fit into like the style of fantasy, and a lot of the females that we get though in Black Clover are super badass, and they have like all these cool magics, and there are lots of cool quirks about them. Rebecca just seems like a straightforward, like real chick, and I like that she is able to sacrifice like a lot of like her like relaxation and comfort to support her siblings, which is very good on her. Very much a prideful aspect to her that she probably doesn't take too much thought into, but she just looking at that aspect of her is definitely like huge props. I do like that about her a lot. She's able to fall into a lot of these, what you would, I guess, call like fantasy style She's literally like a barmaid, like in a fantasy style series, but while like pushing hard working to take care of all of her young siblings, which is nice. And I'm hoping that I don't remember her little sister's name, but she probably looked like 11 or 12. I'm hoping that she learns stuff from her sister and she starts working hard, to take care of, because they have like two or three younger brothers as well, and I think one more younger sister. I have to double check, but good on her, because if she also leads into her younger sister helping her out as well, it also makes her good at child raising. So good for her. Great, she's good at teaching. Gray is legitimately could be on this list, like higher. We just haven't got like a big Gray centered portion yet. We've got a little bit of her. We saw her in the Water Temple arc. We got a little bit of her during this current arc when her, Gordon, and Gotch like were defending the magic stone that the Midnight Sun wanted before Henry came out and helped them. And she got a nice character moment too. Her and Gordon, they shared that. I thought that was really cool. But she has a really nice design. She's very cute. She's funny at the same moment. I was gonna say at the same time, but like I already said time in the same sentence. But anyway, she's got a really cool magic, because it's not only like transformation magic. Like she can turn it. Not only is she like has all these other aspects I've mentioned, but she can turn it into anybody you want her to. So even if you were like, you're like, man, I sure do love my waifu Gray, but this one other character has been really catching my eye. She could turn into them and maybe give you that fantasy. And she seems like she would be okay with it, probably because she's so awkward and she'd be happy about it. But it's an option. Obviously, she ain't no 2-bit hoe. She's a really good character. I like her. She's got a lot of potential. But also her transformation magic in general, the fact she can turn other things into different elements, like she turned Sally's sticky magic or gel magic into plants, so Gordon could affect it. Definitely a OP in the making. Gray holds a lot of potential moving forward. Definitely looking forward to seeing what her backstory is and seeing what role she plays in the rest of the story, or even really in the next arc. Because she only got a small bit, but she hasn't had that kind of like big character like in the spotlight with the main crew yet to really kind of like give her a lot more attention. And Tamada's really good at cycling the Black Bulls especially into the fray, and she got a good part this arc. I feel like the next arc she'll definitely get a little bit more. So now the S tier, second to the top. Again, it's gonna start out heavy. One that's just automatically is gonna be a high tier is Narrow. The big reveal, her design, the fact that she's clearly not even human. She's got like these cool horns. She's a badass already, being like close to the first Wizard King. And just like, not only does she go from like cute, funny bird, but she then turns into cute goth chick. And legitimately, I don't think she could rank anywhere lower by default. She could only get better from here. She's definitely potential for that S+ level once she gets further in the story. We just got to see some of those interactions between her and Asta, and it will definitely go up another level. Vanessa as well. Vanessa, originally she just kind of was like this seemingly very erotic character that just liked to drink and hang out in her underwear all day and like flirt with the guys, whether it was for real, like when she's flirting with Yami, or just teasing. But she legitimately has like, she's very competent, very cool. She has a very good head on her shoulders, and she not only she just straight gorgeous. I really like a lot of her character interactions as well. I really enjoy that she, similar to Finral, is like, I'm not too great at attack. She like none of her magic seems to really be offensive, but she's really good at support. And she just like, I'm just going to be an amazing support. And she's accomplishing that for sure. Definitely like her. Really want to see more of her moving forward, especially the next time we interact with the Witch Queen. Right in the middle of that S tier, we have Charlotte. Charlotte for sure was going to be high up there. I mean, her design is gorgeous. Like, just like, if you just want to compare like her clothing, like that, the color blend, her very weird and interesting helmet, but also like She herself is beautiful. Her magic is beautiful. She has a really nice. I really love her character perk because that was actually from a dude from Tabata's previous series, Hungry Joker, and it was kind of similar to how Charlotte is, where they both kind of like act very cool and collected, but in their head, the way that their mind is thinking, they're just like a big jumbled mess of like being nervous and embarrassed. And she has a lot of really funny moments on top of badass moments, like the part when they're in the hot springs. And you'd think like the lewdest part you'd see is probably from one of the dudes, but she literally passes out thinking about naked Yami. We don't even know what probably further went in her daydreams that probably got more erotic. But she, or in general, just hilarious at the same time, again, of being badass and having a great design. Mimosa, you knew Mimosa was going to be high up on the list for sure. Mimosa, like, legitimately is probably one of the only characters I've seen in a long time that isn't, like, direct main female, like someone like the female lead of people just gunning for it to get with the main character, because Mimosa is gorgeous. She's very entertaining when she's also being extremely nice, but you see like interactions with Kirsch, and she's just like, God damn it, let him stop talking to me. Like, this is the one person in the world that makes me stop acting nice. I just get annoyed the way he acts. And again, that's her brother, so it makes sense. But her magic is great. She's great at healing because that's what she excelled at. So she's like, I'm going to be a great healer. She's got really good other support, like her guidepost spell where she can make a layout of the area and like pinpoint people's locations. Her sixth sunflower, because after she learned like she has like horrible, she's got great healing and support, but she has horrible offense and defense. So she was able to pretty much work hard and get a spell that isn't like, I'm gonna attack you now while I set up this other spell. She's got a offense and defensive spell at the same time. She's got a goddamn sunflower energy shooting sentry turret. So as long as she's able to keep that up, she's going to be able to keep her healing and her supporting going as the sunflower keeps everyone else at bay. Charmy, I think out of all the characters though that aren't as like in the spotlight as against someone like Mimosa, even though she's like a support character, not a lead. She holds a lot of potential because she's probably one of the only characters in the series, someone like Yami, who is just universally liked. Like, people just seem to love Charmy. And it's not only like that she's entertaining, she's cute, she's got cool magic, and recently we found out how much of a badass she actually is. Because like before it was like, damn, she's pretty thug for a 4'5" chick who just wants to eat and sleep. And then we find out she's a lot more. She's a lot more with her sick half dwarf form and her pretty much like Fenrir style magic of just like having this sick, terrifying wolf eat everything around her made of magic and then buff her up so she can just beat the crap out of people. Charmy, again, holds a lot of potential moving forward. And lastly, we're going to get into the last tier, the S+ tier, the top 3 chicks of Black Clover. And what I see, try and argue with me, you probably won't win. That being, first off, Noelle. Noelle, easy one to put up here. Main female, great design, very cute, fun personality, had tons of character development. Her magic is great. She's had really good moments, like proving people otherwise of those who doubted her, somewhat how Asta has. But hers were much longer, deep-rooted with their siblings, and people like gave Asta shit, but at the end of the day, he's a peasant, so it's not like, whatever, you're a peasant. And then, obviously they find out how capable he is. But with Noelle, she is a noble. She's like one of the main houses of the Clover Kingdom, and that was definitely more detrimental for her to really feel is, the nobles have this kind of like standard they have to live up to, and it clearly had a lot of damage to her. Like some people, I feel like a lot of people in her shoes would have just given up, or, I don't want to go into like the darker areas of what could have happened, but glad to see she's around and keep moving forward. Really love Noelle. People really love her. She's very popular. I don't know that many people that don't like her, and the only people that seem to really don't like her are just because they don't like tsunderes in general. Mariela, again, Mariela is one of, legitimately, I think it's hilarious because there's a lot of, it's a lot in Shonen Jump. I'm just going to straight out say, a lot of female characters in Shonen Jump are like, they pretty much are reduced to background characters. There are definitely some that are exceptions. And I think Bleach has a lot of exceptions, really. Like, Yoruichi Shihoen, she's a super badass. And we get that with Mariela, too. She's got a really cool personality, really fun, very intimidating. She's badass. She has a really cool, like, story to her character, even from what we know so far. Great magic, uh, very good looking, very well built, I might add. And she just all around is like, she's probably the only character I've seen in comparison to Noelle that has such a level of people like calling her best girl. And again, Mariela is just an all around like 10 out of 10 character. And it would be hard to mess her up. Like, I think it'd be really hard to mess her up. Though the one on this list I thought was a little bit kind of like hard to place her an S plus and not an S is Sally, because Sally she's been around for a long time, but we've only seen like blasts of her in different arcs. But again, she has cool design, really interesting magic, very fun personality. She's gonna make that that longing for Julius live on. She's got that very similar kind of like huge obsession with seeing and learning about new magics. But again, I like her quirkiness and the fact that she holds. I'll just add it in there. One of the reasons I think that she's one of the best characters in general in Black Clover, just her potential. She could end a lot of the discrimination between the humans and the elves by making fake bodies, or I guess more artificial bodies for the elves, so they can get separated from the humans and slowly move towards peace between their two races. But not only that, again, Sally has great design, great personality, great magic. She has a lot of really cool interactions. I like the fact that she's one of the only characters that frequently is using a magic tool, because you don't see a lot of that right now. We obviously see it with Gosh, and I guess you could kind of argue that with Asta with his swords. But I don't. Noelle, she has her wand, but it's not the same. She kind of bought that, I believe. I don't remember if there was an explanation on actually how Sally got her. So it might have been the same, might have been some black market, or she herself could have straight got out of a dungeon. Because I know that there's a gap between like magic items directly made by people in their kingdom and then like stuff from dungeons. And Sally not only has that cool syringe, but she also has that scorpion necklace that increases their magic, was it tenfold for 10 minutes? OP. So that's going to be my list. Went way longer than I thought it. What, 32 minutes? Tell me in the comments what you think, if you agree, where you would switch this around, or maybe make your own and post it and I'll look. This is obviously my list, and it's going to change moving forward. I want to do some for other series, but I think Black Clover was the best one to start with because there aren't a ton of female characters to go off of, but they're all pretty solid in their own way. Again, I'm not counting the lolies and the little spirit sylph. But again, other than that, I'd really appreciate it if you would befriend the like button, thumbs up the video, befriend the like button, subscribe button, and check out my other videos. But other than that, I appreciate everyone who's already subscribed, and I thank you all for listening. Bye.